That's a training problem. If you look at most schools in Jiu-Jitsu, there is a huge disproportion between the amount of time invested in ground training versus standing training. Okay, most schools and most coaches tend to treat the standing position as a warm-up. Okay, class begins, you practice a couple of takedowns, and then you get into the serious part of class, which is the ground. And this is even more so with sparring time. Okay, the vast majority of schools, there is no sparring time in the standing position. And then when a competition comes up, you get a group of people together and say, hey, we're going to do a competition, match starts standing, what are we going to do? They've got 2 weeks, and they look at each other and like, let's just pull guard.
Yeah, and I see that happen all the time, John, and I feel even sorry when the guy is ultra heavy, for example.
Yeah.
Because he can't pull guard,
Yeah.
you know, like, and then he doesn't know what to do when he's standing. And he's pretty tough, but he's tough on top. But how he's going to get on top?
How's he going to practice this? Yeah. It's so I would say training time is the third big problem that Jiu-Jitsu players face. And also, Bernardo, there's a practical element here that we have to add in. Jiu-Jitsu around the world is a club sport. Okay, now let's compare that with wrestling and judo. Wrestling and judo are Olympic sports. Okay, and many of the people with Olympic aspirations started training when they were 5. They began as children and they grew up performing the sport. Many of them in judo, for example, in Japan and Korea, they go through college playing judo. In the United States, they go through college wrestling. These are highly competitive academic programs, and they have a giant squad of people. If someone gets injured, tough luck. You bring in the second guy and he replaces the first guy.
Yep.
Okay? You can't have that attitude with a club sport. In a club sport, people come in and they pay money to train. You can't just, when someone gets injured, say, well, tough luck, see you later, I'll replace you now. You can't run a business that way. Moreover, many of the students that we teach are people who started late in life. I started Jiu-Jitsu when I was 28 years old. Okay, I started Jiu-Jitsu 28 years old with a crippled leg. For most people, it'd be pretty tough for them under those circumstances to suddenly start learning a hopping uchimata, a driving taitoshi, or a flawless haraigoshi throw. Okay, especially if you're only training that for a limited amount of time a week. So there are practical reasons why training time has to be a little bit lower. I'll give you an example. When you go to Japan and you see the competitive judo schools, especially the university judo schools, that's where most of the best athletes work out. You will see that among the young university athletes, the majority of training time, the vast majority of training time is done in the standing position. Okay, that's because they're all 19 to 21 years old. And as young athletes who have been training since they're 5 years old, it's natural for them to focus on the part of the sport which is most likely to bring you victory, which is standing throws. But when you go to other judo schools in Japan, where they're not college age anymore, let's say, for example, you go to the Tokyo Police Department and you work out in their dojo, the average age there is like 35 to 45. 90% of their training is on the ground, what the Japanese call newaza. They don't do a lot of throwing practice there because they're 45 years old.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, when you're 45 years old, getting thrown 300 times a day, it's not good for your body. It's not fun anymore. Okay, now when you're 19, it's not a problem. If you started when you're 5 years old, you're used to it. It's not a problem. What about a guy who started when he's 33?
Yeah, I agree.
And now he just wants to do this recreationally. Now you're telling this guy, okay, you got to take it 50 hard throws every day. Like, they're looking at you like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, I'm 35 years old. I got a wife and kids. I got to go to work tomorrow. You can't train high amplitude throws with people like this. Okay, it's unlikely someone who starts at the age of 37 is going to learn a flawless drop sanagi. Okay, it can be done. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's the majority of people starting at this age. It's not really practical to start them off with like a hard driving Olympic level drop sanagi. It's probably not going to happen.
I agree.
That's something typically when you start much younger in life. But someone like this can easily learn, for example, a collar drag.
Yeah.
That's a very doable goal for them. So there's a sense in which Jiu-Jitsu has pretty unique elements with regards to training time. It's a club sport. It's not an academic sport. It's not an Olympic competitive sport in that sense. Most of the athletes tend to start much later in life, and most of them play as part of a club where they join and it's a little more informal, as opposed to like wrestling for Iowa, where there's a lot of you. If you're not performing, tough luck, kid, get the fuck out. Okay, we can replace you in 5 minutes. There's 5 other guys who want your spot. Okay, it's a different environment. Now, that's the best environment for producing competitive athletes. Okay, nothing gets people competitive like competition just to get on the spot for the wrestling team. When there's 5 other guys who want your spot, you're going to train pretty hard. So as coaches, we have to be cognizant of the fact that this is a club sport, and we have to build people through a different culture than we would if we were coaching a Japanese judo university or an American wrestling university team. It's a different thing. So those are the 3 main problems that I see a coach in jiu-jitsu when it comes time to teaching the standing game. There's the motivational problem, there's the coaching problem, and there's the training time problem. How much time are we investing in standing position, given that it's mostly a game which is won on the ground? And our ability to create an effective standing program with the feet to floor series is going to come down to our ability to deal with these 3 problems.
No, I agree, John. And everything you were saying, like I think this is kind of like the beauty of jiu-jitsu, right? That people can start old in life and they still not get hurt or still be a good hobby to have. So makes a lot of sense that the takedowns that they should be practicing are the ones that doesn't exposure them that much. So, John, now knowing the problems, what do you think we should do to solve that?
I think everything begins with all of us as coaches of jiu-jitsu taking a hard look at what are the unique aspects of jiu-jitsu that differentiate it from other grappling games in the standing position. When you look at the sport of jiu-jitsu in the standing position, you see that there are substantial differences between the other great grappling arts that stand alongside jiu-jitsu, judo, wrestling, sambo, and et cetera, et cetera. Let's start looking at some of those differences. I'm going to start with an obvious one. If you look at judo, sambo, and wrestling, amplitude in a takedown counts for a lot. In judo, it actually counts for everything. When we talk about the amplitude of a takedown, that's the degree of force and height achieved in a given takedown. Wrestling and judo in particular, but most other grappling styles as well, reward amplitude. The bigger and more powerful the throw, the more you score. The weaker and less powerful the throw, the less you score. Okay, so in judo, they have the notion of an ippon throw. That's the maximum score. That's like their version of like a knockout punch. Okay, you throw someone hard, flat on their back, with force and projection, it's over, it's done. Okay, in wrestling, they have grades of points for throws. Okay, you can score a takedown, which scores in international freestyle wrestling. Currently, it scores 2. You can have a 3-point takedown with his certain criteria are met, and you can have a 5-point takedown. That's where the feet go higher than the hips and shoulders, and you drop the guy down with force and projection with his back towards the floor. And so you see that takedowns are graded according to the amount of amplitude that they express. In jiu-jitsu, no reward for amplitude. There's 0 reward for amplitude. The smallest takedown in jiu-jitsu scores the same as the biggest takedown. If Bernardo picked me up and slammed me flat on my back with a beautiful takedown, he scores 2 points. If Bernardo trips my ankle and I fall gently on my butt, it's the same, 2 points, okay? So jiu-jitsu does not reward amplitude. Every takedown scores the same. They're all 2 points. Second key difference. Most grappling styles reward risk. Okay, if you look at wrestling, you look at judo, they want you to take risks for a big throw. The rules push you towards risk. You can turn your back on someone in judo and make a big attempt at a throw. And if it fails, the rules will protect you. The referee will protect you. Okay, if I screw up an Ippon Sanagi in a judo match and I fall to my knees in front of my opponent, he jumps on my back and gets his hooks in, how many points does he score?
Yeah.
0. Nothing. Not a thing. Not a dime. Okay? In Jiu-Jitsu, he scores 4 points. And now he's in a position to finish me. If I screw up a throw, I just have to protect myself belly down for 3 to 4 seconds and I'm fine. In Jiu-Jitsu, the ref's not going to come and help you. You put your belly down in Jiu-Jitsu, you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble, okay? So wrestling and judo, and to a lesser degree sambo, protect you for taking risks. Jiu-Jitsu punishes risk, okay? The whole idea of Jiu-Jitsu is to punish risk. They want you to play a conservative game that gets you into dominant positions on the ground, in particular the mounted position and the rear mounted position. They're not looking for risk-taking maneuvers where you expose your back to your opponent. If you take risks in Jiu-Jitsu with position, you will be severely punished, and no one's going to come to help you. The ref's is going to look at you and be like, yep, dig yourself out of that grave. Okay, so there is a fundamental difference between the standing position in Jiu-Jitsu, which severely punishes risk, versus judo and sambo and wrestling, which actively promote risk in the effort to get you throwing big, high-amplitude throws, okay? So that's one of the biggest differences between Jiu-Jitsu and the standing position and all the other grappling styles. Welcome to Mastering the Move, the ankle lock. Any discussion of the general leg lock revolution would be remiss without a detailed study of the ankle lock. For most students of Jiu-Jitsu, the ankle lock is the first leg lock that they encounter in their learning journey. It is a powerful and high percentage technique that can reliably win matches at all levels. This video will break ankle locking into 3 core skills to begin with. First, getting to an efficient and devastating upper body grip on the foot. Second, using ashigurami, leg entanglements, to effectively pin and control the opponent's hip or knee. Third, you will learn how to overcome intelligent resistance from a skilled opponent. Let's get started then with your ankle lock journey, and I'm sure that soon you'll be having similar success.